Good morning, one and all. We welcome you all. Nagpur Institute of Technology in association with MSME DI Nagpur. Welcome you for this important webinar on the topic of technology transfer for improved R&D engagement. We have with us Sri Rahul Kumar Mishra, Assistant Director, MSME DI Nagpur, as well as Dr. H. Purushottam, who is the Chairman and Managing Director of NRDC, a Central Public Sector Undertaking under Ministry of Science and Technology. So we have with us, first of all, Sri Rahul Kumar Mishra. He has done his Bachelor of Technology in Chemical Engineering. He is having 7 years of industrial experience in agrochemicals, explosives, food processing industries, and he has joined MSME department in 2014. It's our honor, sir, to have with you us on this important webinar. I request you to please share your views and your talk on this particular important topic of technology transfer. Rahul, sir, please.
Thank you very much, Amol sir. First of all, I would like to welcome today's eminent speaker, Dr. H. Purushottam sir, CMD NRDC. Welcome you, sir. I would also like to welcome all the participants, Amol sir also, convener, and all the participants to this webinar. And I will also congratulate Nagpur Institute of Technology for organizing such a wonderful webinar. This is one of the burning topics nowadays, technology transfer for improved R&D engagements. So most of the times, as we are working in MSME, most of the time, lot of people comes to us, and they always used to ask, sir, please tell us, suggest about the products. We want to start the new business, or some existing entrepreneurs, they want to start or expand their businesses. So it is very important to select the proper product so that they can be able to run their business properly. So at that time, we all now we have started from promote. You go for the different agencies like NRDC. Last time I visited to Baba Atomic Research Center also, CSIR labs also. For they are having various kind of technologies, which you can link up with them, and you can utilize their expertise, and you can select that product to start your businesses. So now we have started motivating that. Again, further for MSME, I would like to tell that all these MSME DIs, we are having around 72 offices across the country, and in Nagpur it is at CGO complex. So most of the time we used to guide the existing entrepreneurs about how to expand their industries in terms of finance, also in terms of technical support also. Similarly, we also used to guide or provide the handholding supports to prospective entrepreneurs who graduates, engineering, or illiterate person also. We used to guide how you can start the business, how you can select the product. So one of the speciality of this institute is that we are having all technical officers in our MSMEs, and you will find the engineers across all the trades, almost mechanical, chemical, civil, leather, food, all trades. You will get the experts in our offices. So we used to guide the prospective entrepreneurs to how they can select the product, what technology should they adopt while selecting the product, and going further, then project report preparation, then finance arrangement, marketing supports. Apart from this, we are also having so many schemes to support the new entrepreneurs also and existing entrepreneurs also. So in that, our website is there, Development Commissioner MSME.gov.in, dcmsme.gov.in. That can also be referred to know about the various schemes of Ministry of MSME. And with this, I would like to thank Amol sir for providing the opportunity to speak in the webinar. And also, I would like to all the participant thanks. You have listened me patiently. And now I would like to hand over the Amol sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Rahul sir. Thank you, Rahul sir. If you look at for MSME DI, it is quite vibrant and dynamic office, and all the officers are there. And a lot many initiatives they are taking. So, we should take benefit of all these things. So, thank you, Rahul sir. Well, next speaker is Dr. H. Purushottam. So, I'd like to introduce him. Meanwhile, I'll request all the participants to keep their microphones on mute position, as well as if you have any kind of questions, you can type in the chat box which is provided. So we have with us another luminary, Dr. H. Purushottam. Sir is currently holding the position of Chairman and Managing Director, National Research Development Corporation, NRDC, a central public sector undertaking under the Ministry of Science and Technology, Government of India. He has obtained BTech degree in Chemical Engineering from Andhra University, Visakhapatnam in 1982, MTech from IIT Kharagpur, MBA from IGNOU, and PhD from Osmania University. He has acquired over 35 years of diverse experience across the innovation value chain by working at different government institutions of repute. He has also served as a director in the NICO Corporation, Andaman Fisheries Limited, and Chilpi Aquaculture Private Limited, and as an investment committee member of UTI, India Ascent Venture Fund, Gujarat Venture Fund Limited, and Ventiscent VC Fund of APIDC, and a member of several committees of government bodies, including DST, DSIR, Ministry of MSME, MHRD, TFAC, TDB, CSIR, etc., by promoting innovations. He was trained at Venture Capital Institute, VCI, Washington, USA, on venture capital funding, the National Business Incubation Association, NBIA, USA, on setting up of technology business incubators, MDI on how to engage and use consultants, and ASCI on management of R&D systems. His core competencies are multidisciplinary R&D process development, scale-up, then IPR management, technology transfer, techno-economic feasibility analysis, incubation, entrepreneurship and startup, consultancy, venture funding, industrial R&D project reviews, and monitoring. He is a recipient of about 12 awards, including Meritorious Young Consultant Award 1991, instituted by Consultancy Development Center, Ministry of Science and Technology 1991, BSc SKOCH Award 2016, International Association of Advanced Materials Medal 2017, ASSOCHAM and Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry Awards 2017 for promoting R&D and innovation in the country. Under his leadership, NRDC got Best PSU Award from Governance Now, and he has awarded a CEO of the Year 2017 from Indian Chambers of Commerce. He has authored or co-authored 65 project reports, 5 book chapters, 1 book, published, presented 85 research papers in various journals and conferences, filed 3 patents, and helped industry in commercializing more than 200 technologies in different sectors. Now, as a CMD of NRDC, Dr. Purushottam is spearheading commercialization of innovative technologies developed by various public funded R&D labs and universities in the country, and contributing significantly to Startup India and Make in India missions of Government of India. He has brought a turnaround in NRDC. Well, sir, it's an honor to have you with us, and a personality like you, can guide us in the technology transfer and the R&D related, domains. So I request you, to please motivate and guide us regarding the technology transfer and R&D related issues. Thank you, sir. Please. Sir, you can unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Professor Deshmukh, for your kind introductory remarks. And I also thank Rahul to join in this very important webinar. MSME DI is always a catalyst in that region. We know its contributions, the vibrancy, and the kind of programs they have been organizing in your state really is a complementable services they are extending to create that kind of an awareness and bringing academia and industry together. Share my presentation. Yeah. So the topic given to me today is to first one. Slide. Was disabled participants screen sharing. Yeah, can you please activate screen sharing? I'm not able to.
Okay, sir. I'll ask Jagdish. Sir. Jagdish, sir, can you please?
Allow me to.
Yeah.
Yeah, sir. Yeah, you can do now.
Yeah. Yeah, left one. Yeah. Yeah, the topic given to me today is to talk on technology transfer for improved R&D engagement. It is a very, very important topic, as Rahul says. See, there are so many concepts have been embedded in this title. One is technology transfer. Technology transfer to whom? It is basically, obviously, to the entrepreneurs, startups, MSMEs, small companies, big companies, and also improved R&D engagement. So another aspect is the R&D, and also there is an engagement between the R&D and industry. So these are all the three concepts embedded in this title, very, very appropriate. And I would like to throw some light on all these aspects and what is the scenario, how government is trying to push, and how NRDC is contributing. So it is a good opportunity for all of us, COVID opportunity, I would say. Because of COVID, we are able to meet, deliberate, discuss, come out with some new strategies, how we can overcome the challenges posed by the COVID. And we all know COVID has caused a havoc in our lives and the economy. And this is the time now we need to follow all the directions given by the state government and central government to protect ourselves, so that government would be able to serve the society better. So at our level, all of us should behave, conduct ourselves in a very responsible manner. Whatever governments are saying, stay safe and follow all the instructions, social distancing, sanitization, and minimize exposure. See, 80% or 70 to 80% of the people are asymptomatic. They are not knowing they are having this COVID virus with them. They are the high risk carriers. So that is why it is very, very important to maintain the social distance, wearing a mask. And whatever government is time to time, the World Health Organization is directing across the countries. So we need to follow first and foremost as a responsible citizen, so that governments would be able to give their best services to protect the citizens. Okay. Coming to the topic today, if you want to have an effective technology transfer, effective engagement with research and development and industry, what is important is a clear understanding of our roles, responsibilities, our cultures. So that is what is important. So here, if you see, as an academic institutions or the research bodies, we are the springboards for bringing R&D outcomes to the society. So, but fundamentally, there is a difference in our cultures. So there is a need for alignment of our cultures. See, if you look at university, our top priority is education to produce quality human resources, less on research and further less on innovation. So that is what, as of now, the university education system or the higher education institutions focus. But what industry looks for is totally different. Exactly inverse of that. Industry's focus or its requirement is innovation, so that they can make profits, they can bring new products to the society, they will be competitive, and less focus on research and less other, below that is the education. So always there is a mismatch between these two cultures. That is why often the education system in our country is commented by industry. We are not able to produce quality human resources as per their expectations. So realizing this importance now, the new education policy brought out by government is addressing some of these major issues, and they made innovation as the prime engine, even for in the education system as well as in the industry. Next. Okay, that is what. Okay, then we see, as we all know, if you want to develop a innovation, new innovation, or if you want to develop a new technology, the basic requirement is that spending on research and development. So how we are spending, where we stand with compared to the rest of the world is also very, very important to understand, because of our country is also a developing country. We can't afford the kind of resources what the advanced economy is spending on research. If you look at USA spends almost around 600 billion US dollars on research alone. No, that is accounts for about 2.8% of our GDP. China also spends around 500 billion US dollars, that is equivalent to about 2% of our GDP. Japan spends about 176 billion US dollars, that accounts for around 2.1% of our GDP. South Korea and Israel, these are the two small countries, but they spend huge amount on R&D, 4.3% of our GDP. That is why you could see these countries emerged as a highly innovative nations, or highly innovative countries. Whereas India, if you look at it, we spend around 0.7% of our GDP, that is equivalent to around $20 billion. In that also, 75% of this research funding or grants comes from the government. Only around 25% of that 0.7% of GDP comes from the industry. But if you look at all these advanced economies like US and other countries, this structure is again totally opposite. There, the government spends 25% on GDP, industry spends 75%. So that is why they evolved as a developed economy. Unless industry comes forward and invest in R&D, we cannot really come out with innovative products and contribute to the socio-economic development. What happens in the current innovation system, mostly we are trying to do a technology push. But what is required in the current economy is that the market pull. Market pull is nothing but industry telling what they want, and research and academic institutions should develop it. So that is how the industry academia interaction is very, very important. And government should come out with such kind of policies where industry can invest more in research and development, like the way it is happening in US. So that is one of the major policy challenges we have been facing in our country. Nevertheless, government is trying to give its best so that industry spends more, like it is giving tax, 150% weighted tax reduction, income tax benefit. But even then still it is not, industry is not really spending that kind of money unless, and also if industry spends in the research in the IITs and all, they also get tax benefit on that. Government is trying to do its best, but still these numbers are not speaking as at best as compared to the developed economies. That is a major challenge we have been facing. We need to motivate industries to spend more on research and development. Then only it is possible to develop at par with other countries. But if you want the industry to spend more, our institutions, our faculty members, our research facilities, our students, they should also be tuned to the requirement of the industry. Then only they will come and look at the universities or academic institutions. If you look at some of the institutions of excellence in our country, like IITs and all, there the industry academia partnerships are very strong, but there is not the same in other institutions. So that is what is important. All these institutions of higher education needs to be having that kind of infrastructure for research and development, quality faculty members, quality research scholars, the culture of IP generation in those universities. That is very, very important. Similarly, if you look at again Switzerland and Finland, they also spend substantial amount of their GDP, 3.2%. OECD countries average is 2.4%. We are very much below that, and there is a need for the Indian government to enhance our R&D expenditure as a percent of GDP to at least 2%. Then only it is possible to come out with large number of innovations and improving our global innovation index, increasing our patent portfolio. We are about 12 or 11 or 12 in the global positioning in terms of patents, patent offices. So we are very much behind compared to the best of the countries, though we have a good population diversity, lot of resources, human resources, but some of our indicators in terms of R&D outcomes, technologies, IPs, we need to improve a lot. So that requires industry and academia partnership. That's what our Honorable Prime Minister says. We need to become self-reliant, and has given a call to build Atmanirbhar Bharat. So what do we mean by Atmanirbhar Bharat? See, we are importing or depending upon almost 22 or 23% of our GDP worth of products, goods and services we are importing. The moment if you are able to reduce that imports to maybe 10%, 5%, then we call it as an Atmanirbhar Bharat. We are not depending upon imports. Similarly, Honorable Prime Minister also has given a clarion call saying that we should reach our economy to $5 trillion US dollars by 2022. That is a measure of achieving Atmanirbhar Bharat. Similarly, the manufacturing output should be 25% of our GDP. That is what one of our vision and aspiration of the government. Currently, we are stagnated around 15 to 17% of our GDP only coming from manufacturing output. Bulk of it is services. So, how to increase our manufacturing output to 25% of GDP? Unless innovation, technologies, manufacturing adopts innovations, it is not possible. So, these are all some of the challenges. At the same time, you can also say that we have achieved Atmanirbhar Bharat if you are able to achieve all the 17 sustainable development goals which were decided across the globe by all the members of the UN countries. So these are some of the indicators we should reach and mature so that we can call that we have achieved the self-reliant India, the Atmanirbhar Bharat, and the Prime Minister himself is driving the entire momentum to achieve Atmanirbhar Bharat. And if you want to achieve Atmanirbhar Bharat or self-reliant India, innovation, intellectual property rights, technology transfers are very, very essential. Of course, all these things comes only when we spend more on the R&D. That is where we need to focus and motivate people, industry to spend more on R&D so that we will be able to come out with the innovative technologies, intellectual property rights so that industry can adopt them, produce new products, sell them at a competitive price, and the society get benefits. By producing such kind of products, we create wealth, employment opportunities, and the entire economy as a whole will be improved. Yeah, that's right. Next. So how this IP or technology commercialization takes place in an academic environment, because it is a Nagpur Institute of Technology is basically an academic institute. I tried to brought some kind of an academic theories into this presentation. If you look at what is the value chain or what is the life cycle, how the process starts, where it starts, where it ends. As far as technology transfer is concerned, we need to understand. See, first of all, as I said, you need to spend in research. So you should have first of all, you should conceive the problem. You should understand what the society needs. So once you identified a problem, and to solve that problem, you need to carry out a research. Okay. Once you carry out a research, then you'll get some kind of a processes or products which can solve the societal problem. That's what we call as an invention. Okay. That invention in the knowledge economy, that invention protection is very, very important. This invention can be protected through several intellectual property rights. There are about 7 or 8 intellectual property rights as far as industry businesses are concerned. So what they are 7 or 8 intellectual property rights like patents, trademark, copyright, design, GIs, integrated circuits and farmers' rights. So like that about 8, I think, major intellectual property rights which are recognized by the government. Government gives a recognition, a certificate, a right if you are able to disclose whatever inventions you have made. You know, they give a right on that to the inventor. So you need to disclose that invention to the government. Of course, government in the sense, each university first should have a intellectual property cell or a technology transfer cell or a entrepreneur cell. Nowadays, all the 3 functions are being done under one roof in any given university or any higher education institute. So you should have a IP cell in your university. Again, in our system, all the universities, they don't have that culture. They don't have IP cells. This is one of the most fundamental thing if you want to attract industry to your university. So you please open IP cells in your institute, because a lot of support is also being given by government under the DIPP, CPAM, TIFAC, Indian Patent Office, everyone is focusing on strengthening that IP infrastructure. A lot of grants are been given. Even NRDs also funds creating such kind of a IP cells in universities. So far we have supported 15 IP cells in 15 major universities across the country. So once you have an IP cell with the experienced people, they will be able to evaluate your disclosures, whatever R&D outcomes your faculty, your research scholars, your students brought out. That IP cell should be in a position to evaluate and take a decision which outcome of the R&D or which process or which product can be patented. Again, the team should have capabilities to assess whether that invention is patentable. There is a criteria against that. Against that, the team should evaluate that criteria like novelty, inventiveness, industrial use. These three parameters you need to assess whether the research outcome meets that criteria. Once your team decided that yes, this meets the criteria, the next criteria is that the financial resources for it. See, if you want to file a patent and maintain it for 20 years of its life, it will cost you around 4 to 5 lakhs. Okay, whether your institute has got that kind of a resources or not. Even then, if you don't have resources, also doesn't matter, because Government of India and all the state governments also have come out with policies to pay for those patent costs. Even NRDC, if you reach to us, we file patents free of cost. Unfortunately, many institutions are not aware. Every year, we file at least 70 to 80 patents free of cost. Whoever comes to us, if they are meeting the eligibility criteria, we file their patent or copyright or a trademark or a design, we file free of cost. We file IPs free of cost for both academia and startup companies. So that is the opportunity available with NRDC. So once you disclose it, the team will discuss, decide, and take a call. That is what evaluation of invention intelligence, evaluation of invention for patenting. Once the committee or the members decide that it is worthy of patent, then you file a patent through a patent agent. He has got all the experience, expertise, how to write a patent document. So he will file a patent in your office or on your name in the patent office. And that is a separate process. The patent office, it takes its own time to evaluate and grant a patent. Generally, it takes about 1 year, 6 months to 3 to 4 years, depending upon the type of patent, type of the domain. And there is also express way of getting patent also by paying a little bit extra fees for processing. So all these things are available, but you don't have to worry. Once you file your application, in a patent office, your job is over. So from that day onwards, you can say that I have filed an patent. This is my application number. Quote that, and you transfer your technology. You get protection for your technology from the date of filing your application. So once your patent is filed, then you market that patent to startup companies, big companies in India and outside, whoever is willing to buy that, you market it. So institutions, the companies will buy your patent in the form of an assignment or as a licensing. You want to sell that patent, you can sell it outright price, one go. You don't want to sell, you can also license your patent to those startup companies, big companies who can use that knowledge to produce the innovative product and bring it to the market. That process, we call it as a licensing process. Giving rights of your patent to the entrepreneurs or existing companies or new companies, we call it as a licensing of that knowledge or licensing of the patent. So this is how, once you license it, the company will use your knowledge, take your help, produce this product and bring the product or service to the market, and they create wealth. Out of that, you are also likely to get, you will also get a technology transfer fee when you transfer this technology, and also you will get a royalty out of it. For every sale, about 3 to 5% on the turnover, the research institute or the university or the inventors, they will get as a remuneration for licensing your technology. This is how the technology transfer takes place. In all these steps, industry association is very, very important. And even MSME has got a lot of schemes. To mature your idea, they have got incubation centers. To protect your IP, they have a patent filing system. They fund also. They reimburse the patent cost. So a lot of schemes. Every ministry has got a scheme to support research, development, innovation, entrepreneurship, startups, incubation centers. So there is no dearth of funds in our country in the present era. Only thing is we need to learn where those schemes available, who are the key people, takes decisions. So that is what you need to have a team in your institute so that they will study and connect all these organizations to your organization so that your research can be protected, commercialized, and that portfolio can be built next. So there are so many challenges. You see, not that research is not happening in our country. A lot of research, 0.7% of our GDP means almost 2 lakh, 1.5 to 2 lakh crores we are spending every year on research and development. But why all these research outcomes are not reaching to the society? Hardly around 4 to 5% of patents what we are getting. Of course, our filing of patents itself is less. Only we file around 50,000 patents in a year. In that 50,000 also, around 70% patents are filed by foreign companies in India because India has got a huge market. So that is why they file patents in India as well. Only 20% of the patents filed, 20 to 30% are only Indian researchers. But even then, why these technologies are not being really transferred? Because the low TRLs. TRL means technology readiness level. That is how we measure the maturity of a technology. Most of these technologies which are coming from academic institutions particularly, they have a TRL 3, at the most 4. So the technology readiness level is measured on a scale of 0 to 9. 9 means it's fully mature technology, industry can adopt it. Okay, but most of the technologies, as I said, there are TRL 3. 3 means they are mere proof of concept at a laboratory scale. That technology really cannot be transferred. It involves a lot of risk and somebody has to mature the technology to TRL 8 or 9. Okay. But if you want to transfer the mature technology, of course, the cost is also higher compared to a TRL 3 or 4 level technology. So institution like NRDC helps to mature those technologies. How do we mature? I'm also going to talk in my subsequent presentation. The other challenge is that, major challenge is that lack of funding for scale up and pilot plant studies. See, as I told you, they're all TRL 3. So if you want to raise to TRL 9, what is basically required is that scaling it up and prototype development, validation in the field, getting all the certificates by the statutory bodies, then the technology is matured. So all these things generally are not happening in our place. Most of the technologies which are lying in the shelves of the institutions are at TRL 3 or 4. They need to be supported by way of providing funds. Of course, MSME and other ministries also now started funding scaling up of technologies like BIRAC, Big Grant and all those things. They provide such kind of a support. Even Spurti in KVIC also has got a lot of programs. MSME, Food Processing Ministry, everywhere, every ministry has got funds for scaling up of these technologies now. But only thing is, people should know about all these institutional mechanisms, government policies. Of course, lack of market research is also another major bottleneck or a limitation. If you want to take any new technology to market, you also should understand what is the demand, what is the supply, who are the competitors for the product. That is also, that data is not available to many of these technologies. Limited access to risk capital. As I told you, all these things, technology maturation requires risk capital because one cannot expect a return on that. If you are not able to generate revenue, not able to transfer this technology, you should be able to write it off. That is possible only by the risk capital. Of course, government now is trying to provide as much as possible. Inadequate IP awareness, lack of IP protection. Again, we don't file IP protection for many of our inventions. That is also another major issue. Limited technology transfer, commercialization professionals. Like any other profession, this technology transfer also requires a critical mass of technology transfer professionals. Why the legal professionals developed so well? Because of the huge mass of legal people. Similarly, accountants, chartered accountants. So like that, there is a need for building this kind of a capacity in our country to build the limit, that critical mass of technology transfer professionals so that they will be able to drive this industry as a whole. Then lack of legal legislative support. In countries like US, technology transfer is mandatory by act, by legislative acts. You see, they have brought out a technology transfer act. Technology Commercialization Act. So we don't have acts in our country. It is only, they say that every institute has to do technology transfer. But a democratic country like ours, if you say that everyone has to do it, nobody will do it. Unless there is a compulsion by the legislative act. The way we file income tax returns, like that there should be also such kind of a mechanism in our country. Whoever develops a technology, that should be registered or filed a return on that technology development, technology commercialization, or technology transfer. That is also very, very important. We're all evolving now. Hope in the time to come, the system will evolve and mature enough so that this will get all the support and push for our technology transfer. Complex regulatory compliances, again, if you want to bring a technology to market, the product or the service, you need to get regulatory approvals for these products from various regulatory authorities. If it's a drug, drug controller, if it is a pesticide, there is a Central Insecticide Board. Then if it is a food, FSSAI, like that, there are so many regulatory bodies. Again, there is a mismatch between the expectations of the industry and the researchers who develop this technology. They don't develop majority of this data when they are developing this technology. When they go to regulatory approvals, they got caught there, and it takes a lot of time it takes. Then inadequate incentives for people who commercialize technologies, who files patents, that also needs to be strengthened. Higher technology transfer costs. Many MSMEs, when we want to transfer technologies, they said the fees what you are charging, we cannot afford. So there is a need for government, MSME. The other day I was also suggesting to Honorable Minister Nitin Gadkari, who is a very dynamic MSME minister, sir, if you can subsidize or tell all these research institutions, give the technologies free of cost. Ultimately, they are using those technologies, producing wealth, producing employment to the youth. See, for a small fee like 10 lakhs, 15 lakhs, 20 lakhs, 30 lakhs, depending upon the maturity of the technology, MSMEs are not able to adopt these technologies, not able to utilize the R&D base. So kindly see to that these technologies developed by at least the public funded research organization should be made available free of cost to the MSMEs. He said, you send me a mail, I will examine it. We have sent it also, hope something will come out of it. And no national guidelines for IP valuation. Again, when we are selling a technology, what is important is that we need to value the IP, and we don't have a national standards or a guidelines. Depending upon the buyer seller capacity, capability, we are selling these technologies. That is also another major challenge. And also need for understanding the 4 P's of a technology transfer. The way we understand 4 P's of marketing, the technology transfer also, people should understand the 4 P's, like the product, what is the technology, the price, the promotion, the place. All these things are very, very important. Next. So I would like to give one example of a Harvard University, how they manage their IP. See, the first and foremost thing is that the disclosure, invention disclosures, that is what any university has to do it. If you look at Harvard University, the new inventions every year, around 400 to 500 new invention disclosures are being made to the IP cell of the university by the researchers and faculty. So the IP cell will examine and recommend how many of them can be filed as a patents. If you look at almost 50% of the disclosures, they decline. Only 50% of the invention disclosures, in their opinion, which have got a market potential, they file applications, patent applications only for 50%. So out of that 50%, almost 50%, they are getting patents. The remaining 50%, there may be questions, there may be delays, or there may be rejections also. And whatever patents they have granted, they have also around about 1/4 or 1/3, they are able to transfer it to industry. See, 125, they got patents. If you look at a particular year, 50 of their patents, they were able to license it to industry. So almost on an average, every year, 40 to 50 patents what they got granted or filed, they're able to transfer it to industry. Out of that, as I told you, they generate revenue. Almost around now about $100 million, they're able to generate from commercialization or transfer of those patents or technologies. And also they're able to create around 15 to 20 startups every year out of their own inventions, from the faculty members, from the students, and people who bought the technologies from this university. So these are some of the best practices the universities can adopt, the higher education institutions can follow. So how an invention disclosure leads to creation of startups, creation of wealth in terms of technology transfer. So this is some of the best practices, one of the best university in the US. So that's what I thought I would share, so that our faculty members and researchers and the administrators will get an idea how the technology transfer cycle creates wealth in the institutions. Next. So we all discussed why we should focus on technology transfer and successful technology transfer. As we all know, a successful technology transfer has got a multiplier effect on the overall socio-economic development of the country. It improves and enhances the national competitiveness, brings several benefits to all the stakeholders, like create new jobs for the citizens, brings or gives new products and services to the consumer to meet their expectations, and also it creates revenue for the inventors as well as the investors. So that is why the technology transfer is such an important engagement in all the higher education institutions across the globe. Next. So if you plot a graph from idea to market, when you take an idea to market, the line pass through like this. It is called a hockey stick curve. So you start with an investment. See, the steps taking the idea to market is research, development, technology transfer, product launch, then commercialization. Okay, these are the main 4 phases in any idea in taking the marketplace. Every technology has to pass through this curve. So if you look at under the curve, there is a deep valley. So majority of the technologies fall in this valley and they die. They don't see the light of the day if they are not able to endorse or get the support from all the stakeholders. The major stakeholders here in taking the innovation to the marketplace is the funding agencies. If you are not able to raise the required fund either on your own or from the government sources or from the investors, the technology will fail in its journey and fall in the valley of death. So if you want to overcome this valley of death, what is important is that the support from all the stakeholders. You need handhold, you need mentoring, you need finance, you need government approvals. So when you are planning for a technology transfer, you should fully aware the journey the technology pass through and take appropriate steps to overcome that kind of a risks involved in the technology. So even this valley of death also can be further classified into a technology valley of death and a commercialization valley of death. Technology valley of death refers to the earlier part of the valley of death, where if the technology development is not done appropriately, the technology maturation is not taken place. If you take a laboratory technology and try to commercialize it, it has got a lot of risks as far as technology is concerned. And the other one is a commercialization of valley of death. Commercialization means if you don't raise required funds and you don't understand the market requirements, the demand, supply, regulatory compliances, all these things, if you don't understand properly, again, this will die once you start the business. So this is very, very important. Any entrepreneur, any MSME, before starting a venture, this is the roadmap. Every technology has to pass through this curve. At each stage, you need to have that kind of a support system built in, thought of in the beginning itself, so that you are prepared for it to overcome the valley of death. Next. So why we should promote startups, MSMEs in any economy? You know, startups and MSMEs are the ideal vehicles for bringing innovations, innovative technologies to the market. You know, big companies cannot adapt and bring innovations to the market very fast, because the small companies, they are very flexible. Their ability to quickly and efficiently adopt innovations, they are agile. So that is why the major companies are always worried about garage companies which are starting in the garage. So you have seen that how this garage companies have overtaken the major MNCs also in many cases. So because of the innovation ability, or adopting innovation in the small companies is much easier, much faster. So moreover, these MSMEs or startups, they are the seeds for the future large companies and corporates. Whatever companies we are now, the MNCs or Fortune 500 companies, what we are seeing, they're all once upon a time startup companies. So that is why we need to promote more and more startups, more and more MSMEs in any economy. And they can grow much faster than the larger companies, startup companies, MSMEs. See, during the last 6 to 8 years, India produced more than 26 unicorns. Unicorn means a company valued at $1 billion or more. So in the olden days, to have a valuation or a company of $1 billion means around 7,000 crores. So now the technology, the startups have got that kind of a flexibility, agility to raise or to capture the markets, scale up their business models very fast, and they have a higher growth opportunities in short times. And they promote inclusive growth. MSMEs and startups, they promote inclusive growth. We are aware MSMEs and startups contributes to around 29% of GDP, 40% of exports, and create employment about 11 crore people this sector is employing. But this sector is also facing a lot of challenges like access to innovative technologies. We all know, everybody know how MSME is deprived of innovative technologies because of several challenges of financing. Access to finance is another major challenge. Trained manpower is a major challenge. IPR issues. They don't understand the implications of IPRs and the benefits of IPRs. Of course, government has been trying to create such kind of awareness, provide all the possible support to both MSMEs and startups. A ministry has been working to promote MSMEs because of its importance. And startups, MSMEs are also passing through a critical times due to COVID-19. Majority of the startups have become defunct because of the disruptions in supply chain, lack of liquidity. So many problems the startups are facing. And it's all of us to think, support the startups to overcome this COVID challenge. Okay, next. So just I would like to give one example here. There was a study conducted by USPTO, US Patent and Trademark Office, how the IP is helping their economy. This is a very important study for all of us to understand the importance of IP. They carried out a survey in about 130,000 startup companies or MSMEs, and they found out all these 133 companies in that, there are about 45 million high-paid jobs these startups have created. That it's equivalent to around 30% of the US jobs have come from the startups or MSMEs who have IP in their businesses. They have also contributed around 6 trillion to the economy of US. Around 38% of the GDP has been contributed from these startup companies. And without trademark and a brand registration, even Amazon, the global e-marketplace, they do not market the products. So that shows the importance of embracing to intellectual property protection by the MSMEs and startups. I always suggest, without having a IP protection for your product or your process or your brand, don't start a business. Tomorrow, if you are successful, somebody will copy or somebody will file a case against you saying that you have copied my technology. So always this intellectual property right is very, very important, particularly for MSME and startup companies. Startups, MSMEs earn 32% more revenue compared to the counterparts who are not having IPs. This is also another major, biggest motivation for startups to have IP, because they can earn 32% more revenue compared to the companies who do not have IPs in their business. IP is a truly intellectual currency, helping to promote economic growth, company competitiveness, and innovation worldwide. That is the importance of IP. Next. So why IP protection is essential for startups? This is also, since we are talking, government is pushing a lot of funds into the Startup India mission. The startups also should know why IP is important. IP gives a protection, exclusive right to the startups. You know, if you are having a IP or a patented technology in your business, you will get 20 years exclusivity for that product or that service, so that you will get a protection. And if you have an IP in your business, the investors also will get a confidence to invest in your company, because there is a market entry barrier for others to enter into this. And another important thing is, as I mentioned to you, it will act as a defensive as well as offensive mechanism. If somebody says you have copied, you can show your patent document. And otherwise also, either both defensive as well as offensive mechanism. Then it also provides new revenue stream. If you have got a patent, and IP must be, suppose in case if you want to export your goods and services to developed economies, without IP, you cannot really convince the buyers overseas. So if you want to export, IP is almost a must in the developed economies. Next. So it is also very important how the IPRs and GDP of countries are correlated here. If you look at China files around 15 lakh patents every year, and you see the economy around 14.14 trillions. Similarly, USA, they file around 6.5 lakh patents every year, and you see the economy around 21.4 trillions. Similarly, Japan, Germany, India, as I mentioned to you, India files only around 50,000 patents a year, whereas China files 15 lakh patents in a year. So these are need to understand what makes China to file so many patents. Why not the same population we have India and China? Why our patents are less? And we are also number 3 in the publications. But what is happening is that we are filing, publishing papers, but not converting those papers into patents. That's what our Dr. Mashelkar, the former DG, said. Always patent, publish, prosper. You know, I think that kind of a philosophy needs to be brought into our policy, so that whatever research we are doing, first you patent it, so that becomes in the knowledge economy, the IP is an asset, is an intangible asset which can create tangible assets like wealth and employment. So MSME is also giving a lot of thrust for protecting IP in all the MSMEs. Almost every ministry has got tied. In the Ministry of Information and Electronics also, they got a reimbursement scheme. Every state government now giving reimbursement who files patents. But unfortunately, we don't understand, we don't react, we don't follow the government guidelines. That is, the awareness is less. We need to do that if you want to enhance our patent filing. I was also suggesting to many of the policy makers, saying that every PhD scholar, before awarding his PhD thesis, I think particularly in science, engineering, pharmaceutical sciences, they should file at least 1 or 2 patents before their thesis is accepted or approved. That philosophy is adopted as a policy. I think our patent filing in our country will ramp up rapidly. Okay, next. And also our patent filings per 100 billion GDP of our country is also very less compared to some of these Asian economies like South Korea, China, Japan. They file around 5,000 to 8,000 patents per 100 billion US dollars of their GDP, and whereas India files only 174. We are very much behind. Next. So how NRDC is supporting the Startup India, Make in India, MSME, all these things what we are talking, we are doing nothing but technology transfer, IP commercialization. So all these things feed to the Startup India and Make in India missions. What we are doing, as I mentioned to you, we work with almost all government labs in CSIR, DRDO, ICAR, ICMR, universities, IITs, and we have access to all the innovative technologies, IPs. So based on this knowledge, what we gathered from all these institutions, by way of entering into an agreement with them, sharing their knowledge with us, we have created a technology bank of more than 3,000 innovative technologies. So any entrepreneur or any individual wanted to start their venture or a startup company, or he wanted to become an entrepreneur, they can reach out to NRDC. We can provide a technology of his choice in any given area. It could be food, agriculture, or energy, chemicals, pharmaceuticals. You name any area, we have technologies. Even our technology data bank doesn't have the technology. You please tell us, we search for it, scout for it, and we bring the technology and give it to you. But what is required is that you need to understand the mechanisms, you need to understand where these technologies are available. That is what we are trying to create, such kind of awareness by participating in such kind of awareness programs. I am very thankful to Nagpur Institute of Technology and MSME for providing this opportunity. This is my fourth or fifth talk in MSME platforms across the country. Really, it has created a good impact and awareness. And we have also partnered with Ministry of Defense, established an intellectual property facilitation cell in the DGQA in headquarters of Delhi. And we are helping all the defense units to file their patents and commercialize their patents. We have also partnered with Indian Oil Corporation. They have also created about 60 crores fund to promote startups. We have identified around 24 startups. We have received around some 700 applications. Out of 700, we shortlisted 24 startup companies in which we invested this 60 crores. Almost we have given 1 to 3 crore grant to each startup to prove their ideas, establish proof of concepts. Once the proof of concept is established, Indian Oil Corporation will decide whether to buy that IP or the form a joint venture with them, or they can leave it if it is not meeting the requirement of Indian Oil Corporation. So that is also a major program we have been partnered with, and we are also part of DIPP, which is implementing the Startup India mission. Government of India is giving tax benefit to all the startups, but they put one condition: there should be innovation in the startup, then only you will get this 3 years tax benefit. You don't have to pay any tax on your profits for a period of 3 years. But that responsibility of whether the startup has got innovation in it or not has been given to NRDC. We have evaluated more than 5,000 proposals and given our recommendation to Government of India on which the startups can be given that kind of a benefit. We have also, as I mentioned to you, opened 15 university innovation facilitation centers across the country in 15 major universities. Every year we give a call, invite applications. Based on the eligibility criteria, we select them. And we are also managing 2 intellectual property facilitation centers supported by MSME. One at Visakhapatnam, the other one was at Bangalore. We have also been organizing IPR awareness programs, IPR training programs across the country in many universities, industries, and industry associations. If you get to receive an invitation, we organize these programs free of cost. And we also got one UN WIPO Technology Innovation Support Center at NRDC Visakhapatnam office. This is also providing a lot of WIPO resources to the local SMEs and innovators to use the databases particularly. NRDC, as I mentioned to you, has already transferred more than 5,000 technologies in different sectors in India and abroad. We have transferred our technologies and services in more than 24 countries, and bulk of our technologies are to MSMEs and startups. NRDC also files patents free of cost for startups. That is one major support service we are providing to startups. Within 1 week, we are able to file a patent for startups who have reached to us. We have filed so far around 2,000 patents during the last 10 years. We are also managing 3 incubation centers. Any university wanted to establish an incubation center, we can also help them how to prepare the business plan and reach out to the funding agencies to establish your incubation center. We are managing 3 centers as of now. One at NAL Bangalore, we have signed agreement just last week to open an incubation center to promote aerospace startups. And Siri Pilani, along with them, we have opened one center at Jaipur, and we have one more center in our headquarters in Delhi itself. And we are also providing grant and equity funding for commercialization of IPs to startup companies, research institutions, individual inventors. So every year we give calls, inviting proposals, seeking for project proposals in different domains. Based on the merit, we support financial support to all these inventors as well as startup companies. Next. So these are all the services what we provide: technology transfer, technology assessment, pilot plant studies, support for establishing pilot plants, IPR protection, prototyping, field testing, clinical trials, market research, basic engineering package preparation, techno-economic feasibility report, regulatory dossiers, approvals, publicity, marketing. We also participate large number of exhibitions where we also exhibit all these innovative products. We provide seed funding, we provide incubation services, we provide mentoring and handholding. What more any entrepreneur, startup company or MSME wants more than this? But only thing is you need to reach out, understand the procedures, meet the people, and have patience. Then definitely government provides all the support services required to make an entrepreneur successful. There is no dearth of money, there are no dearth of programs, there is no dearth of talent in our country. Now everything is available. In my opinion, this is the best time for entrepreneurship in our country, particularly for startups and MSMEs. Next. So these are some of our success stories. One is the indelible ink. When we go for election, they put an ink on our finger saying that you have already voted, you cannot vote till the next election comes. Such a simple technology which we are licensed to Mysore Paints, and this company is producing the ink required for all our elections, and also it is exporting to 28 countries, and around 98% of the employees who are engaged in production of this ink are women. That is the beauty of it. And Amul baby milk powder is another major technology. We have licensed this technology to Dr. Kurian. The other day I met the CMD of NDDB. I asked him how this product is doing, what percentage of your balance sheet coming from the Amul baby milk food. He said around 3,000 crores revenues coming from this Amul baby milk powder alone to their balance sheet. Such a wonderful technology. This was developed by CFTRI Mysore, and we licensed to NDDB. The 10 and 20 HP tractor, again another major technology. Our Indian farm land holdings are very small. The big tractors are not of much use. And our CMERI Durgapur CSIR lab has developed this 20 HP tractor. We transfer this technology to Punjab Tractors, and Punjab Tractors has been producing these tractors, selling in the market, very successful brand Swaraj Tractors. That technology was licensed to NRDC. Now this company was acquired by Mahindra and Mahindra. Another company, International Tractors, they are also selling this technology in the name of Sonalika brand. This again one of the major contributor to Indian farmers. Then we have artificial heart valve, Ayush 82, anti-diabetic herbal drug, again a blockbuster technology for diabetes management. Ayush Ministry has developed it. We licensed to 7-8 companies, transferred it. Then anti-arthritis herbal ointment, again is one of the major technology licensed by NRDC during the last 4-5 years. NIST Jorhat has developed it, and we transferred to about 7-8 companies. They're all doing very well. Remote operated vehicle, again, is a wonderful technology developed by NIOT Chennai. This remote operated vehicle go into the sea up to 6,000 meters and take photographs of the soil bottom, sea bottom, sends that photographs to the shore. So it's got enormous applications in the Navy and mining applications. We transfer this technology to L&T and Bharat Electronics Limited last year. Then we have solar power tree, invert sugar, BTA larvicide for controlling larva, mosquito larva, hydrogel, another beautiful technology developed by IARI. This hydrogel has got an enormous capability to absorb water. It absorbs 600 times of its weight. 1 kg of this super absorbent hydrogel absorbs 600 kgs of water and retains in the soil once you throw it in the soil. When there is no rain, this hydrogel can release that water and saves the crop or the plant. So if you're able to implement this technology properly, effectively across the country, our farmers' suicides can be minimized and more crop for the drop of the Honorable Prime Minister's vision could also be achieved. This technology we licensed recently to Reliance Industries as well as Carborundum Universal. Blood bag is another major technology we licensed to about 7-8 companies, which was developed by Sri Chitra. And 60% of the blood bag market in India comes from our licenses. Okay, yeah, like that, there are so many hundreds or rather thousands of success stories in NRDC. Next. So we also, as a responsible organization, responded to the COVID-19. So as a technology transfer organization, what we did is, you all might be aware, during the last 2 to 3 months' time, more than 200 technologies, solutions have been developed by our Indian research laboratories, universities, startup companies. So we quickly compiled all these technologies which have been developed. See, it was never heard in the Indian innovation system, developing more than 250 technologies in a period of 2 months or 2.5 months time. So we grabbed this opportunity, prepared this compendium, all the technologies addressing the COVID in the area of tracing, testing, treatment. We compiled it, and this compendium was released by our secretary, DSA, Dr. Shaker C. Mande. It has received wide publicity in the media, and more than around, I think, 65 inquiries we have received from various startup companies, MSMEs, to source technologies from this compendium. They want to establish their businesses because the market for COVID-related technology is very high demand in our country, not only in our country, across the globe. So some of the entrepreneurs have taken technologies from us, from this compendium. They have also commercialized. We've also launched a scheme also to support scaling up some of these COVID technologies. We gave a call, we received around some 65 proposals. Out of 65 proposals, we have supported 16 projects across the country who wanted to scale up or validate prototype, build the prototype, test the prototype, validate it, get the certification from ICMR. So we are supporting such kind of interventions as well. Next. So this is one technology which was developed by Indian Navy. A doctor developed a PPE kit which is breathable. See, most of the PPE kits available in our country, they're all imported. They are not breathable. Once you wear it, it gives a lot of sweating. So, but this PPE kit is breathable and low cost, and it meets ISO standards, and it also got approval from ICMR, which is a regulatory body for giving all the COVID-related products. So we licensed this technology to about 6 MSMEs. They've already started producing this, marketing it. We are also helping them to position this in the e-government, GEM, government e-marketplace, so that most of the government procurements can be facilitated through GEM for this thing, and this technology is available for transfer, huge demand for it, and very cost effective. Yeah, next. So if you want to achieve successful technology transfer based on our empirical study of more than 700, 800 technology transfer projects, what we found out is that these are the 10 success critical factors. If you want to achieve successful technology transfer to industry, you need to fulfill at least these 10 parameters. What are those? The product, the service which you would like to transfer or commercialize should have a large market size. That is one of the primary condition if you wanted to achieve successful technology transfer. And easy access to finance, because most of these are innovative products. Traditional finance is not available. You should be able to get access to the government funding or risk capital or venture funding. That is very, very important. The third most important thing is that strong IPRs. If you don't have a strong IPRs, you may not be able to attract investments. So strong IPRs are also very, very important. Field tested prototype. This is also very, very important if you want to achieve a successful technology transfer, particularly when you are taking a technology from any academic or research laboratory. That product or service should have been field tested in the real life conditions so that the risk of commercialization is minimized. That also needs to be done before you transfer technology. The techno-economic feasibility report and viability has to be established. The performance guarantee of the technology provided is very, very important. If you are taking a technology from a university or a research lab, you should also take a performance guarantee from that lab which is transferring this technology, because it is very, very important. These are all innovative technologies. Nowhere they have been established. It requires a lot of iterations. So unless the laboratory which is transferring or the university which is transferring this technology, they don't stay with you, help you in carrying out re-standardization of the technology, it is very difficult for any entrepreneur or any MSME, so that he should ensure that kind of a performance guarantee. Then competitive price and quality, product meeting the user needs, fiscal incentives with the government is also very, very important. For example, all these solar technologies and pollution control technologies, why they are successful? Because government is after that. They give a lot of incentives, tax benefits, regulatory approvals, single window things. So like that, the government support and fiscal incentives are very, very important. Of course, among all these things, having competent team is also very, very important. These are the 10 critical success factors if you want to achieve a successful technology transfer. Next. I think I would like to conclude saying that in any business, particularly the knowledge or the technology oriented startups in business, the IP is the most important. Why we are respected as an academic institute, as a research institute, their industry respect us only if you have got a strong IP, strong knowledge base, strong intellectual capability to think out of the box. So this, we call it as a creative mind or intellectual property right or intellectual property. So if you're able to convert that IP into wealth by means of an entrepreneurship, by means of a startup, you can create wealth and create wealth, employment opportunities, and plow back part of the, again, wealth what you are creating into research to bring out new products, new processes. So there will be an always equilibrium between the knowledge and wealth. As long as you are able to maintain the equilibrium between the knowledge generation, converting that knowledge into wealth and plowing back that wealth into creating new knowledge, then we will be at a developed state of economy. So this is what the message I wanted to leave is that all the researchers, faculty members, policymakers should give highest priority in our processes, in our thought process, in our technologies, the newness, the inventiveness, the innovativeness, which is a measure of intellectual property. So we should give highest priority and focus to create intellectual property out of our R&D outcomes. If that is there, then that knowledge has got a higher value realization. Industry will come to us to buy that knowledge, to utilize that knowledge, to partner with us, to get that knowledge. In that process, the industry, academia partnership will be strengthened, the economy will be strengthened, and we can achieve the vision of our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, the Atmanirbhar Bharat, the self-reliant India. Thank you very much for your patient hearing and giving me this an opportunity to share some of our experiences, some of our thoughts, to motivate some of the entrepreneurs, the students, faculty members. NRDC is a one-stop shop for researchers, faculty members, entrepreneurs, innovators, investors. So unfortunately, many people are not aware the kind of facilities we provide. So this platform has given me some opportunity to share our capabilities, how we can help the MSMEs, how we can help the startup companies, how we can help the researchers, faculty members. It's a wonderful opportunity. I thank once again Nagpur Institute of Technology and MSME DI Nagpur for organizing this wonderful event. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. It was indeed very informative and very crisp presentation, and the information which you have provided. It was quite motivating, to undertake the research, and more than that, whatever we have, we should file the patent and the IPR related issues which you have addressed. So thanks, thank you very much for this wonderful talk. So on behalf of Nagpur Institute of Technology, I'm thankful to Shri Parlewal sir, Director MSME DI Nagpur, Purushottam sir, Chairman and Managing Director of NRDC, Shri Rahul Kumar Mishra sir, Assistant Director MSME DI Nagpur, and all the students, participants, researchers who have joined for this particular webinar. Thanks to Professor Jagdish Pimple for the coordination. And sir, as you said, very aptly said, patent, publish and prosper. So that should be the tagline for these coming days. And thanks a lot for your efforts. And we have got an information about which kind of the activities NRDC is having. So surely we'll like to collaborate and associate with NRDC for that. Thanks, Rahul sir, for connecting. Rahul sir, will you like to say something? Hello.
Amol sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I think so. It was very nice presentation, and मेरी काफी दिनों से इच्छा थी कि इस तरीके का presentation खास करके नागपुर के लिए हो.
Yes,
so
sir.
I am very much thankful to पुरुषोत्तम sir कि आपने आपका कीमती समय दिया हम लोगों के लिए. और डेफिनेटली एक बहुत अच्छी चीज़ देखी प्रेजेंटेशन में जो सर ने कहा था आईपी प्रोटेक्शन को लेके, जिसका ट्रेडमार्क या ब्रांड रजिस्टर्ड होता है 32% मोर रेवेन्यू जनरेशन करते हैं. तो वी ऑलवेज सर आपको बताना चाहूँगा कि हम लोग भी हमेशा यहाँ काफ़ी इंसिस्ट करते हैं, सभी जो भी MSMEs है या जो भी ट्रेडर्स वगैरह भी हैं, भी आप अपना ब्रांड रजिस्ट्रेशन ज़रूर करवाइए so that you can get the benefit of this. So we are also insisting for IP protection to all the MSMEs. So thank you very much, Sir Purushottam sir and Amol sir also. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Rahul ji, for taking your time out of your busy schedules.
Okay.
Thank you very much, sir. Wish you a great day ahead.